Oof. Okay, so I was wrong about the Diablo 4 expansion. So this is a video from Legendary Drops. I've seen a lot of people reacting to this video, so I wanted to do my own reaction because I have my strong point of views about this type of content creators. And being myself a Diablo 4 player, so and this is gonna be like my first English reaction because this is an English video. I tend to do content in Spanish, so I'm gonna be trying some content in English, so that's fine. So okay, let's react to this. Hopefully he introduces why he's talking about this, because it comes from previous videos that he's done about Diablo 4, specifically this whole thing about Diablo 4 be coming up with an expansion that's gonna be like $100. And to be honest, I don't think that's true. There's an alleged survey that went out, and one of the options in the survey was $100. First of all, it hasn't been confirmed that that survey was real. I'm not sure. If I'm wrong, please let me know. I think in the latest Diablo 4 thing that they do, what's it called? The I don't remember. Fire camp or something like that. They kind of said that it wasn't true, or implied that it wasn't true. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm not remembering correctly. That's fine. Let me know in the comments. Um, but this whole thing about the $100 expansion, to me, it's weird because it seems that the $100 question was about one tier of the expansion, meaning whenever you get a game, you get the 60 or $70 base game, but then you have like a limited edition, or a deluxe edition, or a premium edition, or whatever, that's gonna ramp up the price, right? It's gonna go from 70 to 90. Like Diablo 4, there was like $100 edition, I think. There was a $90 edition or $100 edition, and then the normal one that was $70. So that's what I think. It's that whole thing. But let's get into the video, and maybe he explains a little bit better. And sorry if my English is not perfect. So
I can admit when I'm wrong, albeit it doesn't happen all that often, but when it does,
that's not a great way to start, in my opinion. But let's do it.
I can admit that I'm wrong. I'll give you guys an example. About a year ago, one of the third or fourth videos I ever made on this channel was called Diablo 4 Isn't What You Think It Is.
I don't remember seeing that video. Maybe I should watch that video. Well, let's.
Got over 250,000 views.
That's
It was
good.
one of the fastest videos I'd ever seen pop off on my channel. And for anybody that's watching this that has a YouTube channel, they know how crazy it is for the third or fourth video of yours to get that many views.
Third or fourth? Oh, Jesus. I envy you now, guy.
that quickly. And in that video, I simped for Diablo 4.
Oh, really?
I said things like, guys, don't worry about it. The cash shop is just there to fund the further development of the game so it can be even better over time.
Talking about the cash shop? I mean, the store? To be honest, I've never been to the Diablo 4. I'm like, I've played the game that I played the most in 2023 was Diablo 4. Like, I played when it came out. I played the first season, which was pretty bad, and then the second season, which has been way better. And I've never been to the shop, and I've never felt like I need to go to the shop. So I don't see a big issue with the shop, other than maybe the ethics or morale of from Blizzard. Like, oh, they're selling me a full price game, and then they have a shop to kind of try to make me spend more money on top of buying the game. To be honest, I couldn't care less about that. I mean, again, it's also not again, but it's a live service game, so it makes sense that it has microtransactions because somehow the game has to, keep making money for its support, for it to be live. And maybe that's why, or that's kind of the model, and I can accept that. Especially when the game doesn't force me to go to the shop to continue playing the game. Like, for example, I remember Ubisoft, I think it was Assassin's Creed Odyssey, that had this XP boost as a microtransaction. And if you didn't get that, you had to grind so much in the game to progress, because you will encounter a wall, like a leveling wall, that won't allow you progress, because suddenly the next main mission was way over your level. So you weren't able to keep moving forward in the campaign. You were forced to either grind side quests or stuff in the world so you can come back and continue the main quest, or you get the XP boost and avoid that issue. So that to me is very predatory and unfair as a microtransaction, especially a game that is not a live service. But in this game, where it's 100% optional to go to the cash shop and buy some ornaments or some cosmetics, I mean, I don't see what the big deal is, to be honest. I just couldn't care less. I don't give a fuck.
Look, we all have our moments of weakness. I learned from mine.
Okay.
So I was really surprised to see that when I put out my last video about how Diablo 4, an expansion for the game, wouldn't be worth $100.
There you go. That's what I was talking about. Let's see.
I wasn't expecting such an outcry from people that, well, while many did agree with me, there were a lot that didn't.
Okay.
Many even called me a liar.
To be honest, I don't agree with the $100 expansion. I just don't care if it's like a deluxe edition of the expansion. I don't give a fuck, because I'm not gonna buy that. I'm probably just going to buy the main, the $40 whatever price they're gonna put on that expansion. I'm just gonna buy the base expansion, just the content, the base content. I don't care about the cosmetics. However, I don't care if Blizzard makes $100 bundle with some cosmetics for those who would actually get that. I mean, why would I want to, I don't know, like, why should I be entitled to, or pissed because there's an option for those who want to spend $100 with some cosmetics? Maybe there are people out there who want to have all of the cosmetics, have, a collection in the game, like a digital collection or whatever. Why would I want to impede that? I mean, go for it. If it's not affecting me as a player, I couldn't care less, just to be honest. I mean, I know that's going to be an unpopular opinion, but that's fine. Hate me all you want.
So today, what I want to do is I actually want to focus in on some of those discussions because I think it's worth having.
Okay.
Because I may not change the hearts and minds of everybody, but if I can change the hearts and minds of a few, well, then maybe we can get better games as a result.
I don't like his attitude. I mean, let me just rewind a little bit here.
Worth having. Because I may not change the hearts and minds of everybody, but if I can change the hearts and minds of a few, well, then maybe we can get better games as a result.
Okay, so the reason why I don't like his attitude is because he's obviously I mean, he thinks that his opinion will make better games, and he thinks that whatever it comes to be a better thing for him will be a better game for everyone else. And that's just not true. I think that's very narcissistic, to be honest. I mean, who do you think you are? Who do you think you are? Yeah, who the fuck you think you are? Like, your opinion and whatever you think is best for a game will result in a better game for everyone else. What makes you think your your point of view is so, you know, important, or so, um you know, what makes you think your point of view will make better games for the rest of gamers, essentially? I mean, I think that's a very narcissistic point of view. If you really think your opinion is the best thing that could happen in the video game industry or to Diablo 4, I don't know. That's a pretty big statement, and let's see if you can prove it. But I just don't like that attitude, because you don't. Why is it that you are representing me as a gamer? And then the bad thing is that a lot of followers will. I mean, if we go to the comment section, which I'll probably go after we see the video, but you're gonna see some people just agreeing with him because they like the validation. And that's fine. Let's see.
In years to come.
Again, it's good to have opinions. It's good to have opinions, but it's not the same when you say, well, I don't like something, than saying something is bad. Like, when I say I don't like Diablo 4, that's my opinion. When I say Diablo 4 is a bad game, that's not necessarily an opinion. That's more like, you're stating that as an objective truth. And that's where I disagree with most of this kind of content creators, that I think they just hurt the gaming industry and video games as a whole more than help, if that makes sense.
So we're going to listen to the people that disagree with me today.
Okay, cool.
We're going to see if they can change my mind.
No, nobody's gonna change your mind. Yeah, exactly. Nobody's gonna change your mind, because these type of people just go into games. It's like, oh, you see, here's one thing that I truly hate is whenever someone wants to talk trash about Diablo 4, the first thing they bring up is Path of Exile. Let me finish my previous thought. Nobody's going to change his mind, because this type of gamers or content creators or whatever, they just get into these games convinced that they're going to be bad. And they are just focusing and finding those bad things so they can create their videos and their content. They don't get into these games trying to like him or trying to see him objectively. They don't get into these games trying to understand the game, trying to understand where it's coming from, what it's trying to do, why things work in a certain way. No, they just go in with the predetermined to hate the game and just to find those flaws so they can create a video saying, well, this game sucks. And another thing that I don't understand and I find very narcissistic is they don't like a game and they just feel this need to convince everyone to hate the game because they don't like it. And you know what I mean? It's like, I don't like Diablo 4, so let me just create a bunch of videos. Like, when did Diablo 4 came out? Like in May? In April? In May? It's been like more than half a year, and they're still creating content on how bad Diablo is. It's the same thing with Starfield. Like, it's been 4 months already, I think, or 3 months. there's still people creating content around how bad Starfield is because it has loading screens. Like, I'm not defending these games. I'm just saying, okay, I get it. I get it. Yeah, why are you still making videos telling me that Starfield is a bad video game because it has loading screens? Just move on. Like, and then the very first thing they start with is comparisons. Like, there's no one talking to me about Diablo 4 as a game, but Diablo 4 as compared with Path of Exile. And they're two completely different games. I'm sorry, I'm a Diablo 4 player. Does that make me lame or a noob or a casual? That's fine. I don't care. I really don't care if you consider that. Now, all these people who just trash on Diablo 4 because, oh, Path of Exile does it better, are the same who actually, or I'm not going to say all of them, but most of them are the Path of Exile players that need to have a second screen with a website telling them what to do in the game, because otherwise they wouldn't be able to play it, because the game is so complex that they don't even know how to put together a build. So, I mean, how come you tell me, what authority and how entitled are you that you come here, don't even know how to play Path of Exile, and tell me how Path of Exile, it's a much better game than Diablo 4, because Diablo 4 is very simple. You know? It's like that's a contradiction for me. Like, the only reason why I don't like playing Path of Exiles is because I don't like having to play off a guide. I don't like that. You know, and it doesn't mean that I can't play without a guide, but go look for these players giving you a guide. The first thing, like, there's this Diablo 4 player. No, there's this Path of Exile player that has like a guide, a beginner's guide. And the first thing that he says is, go find a guide for your build, because otherwise you're not gonna do a good build. Go find this other tool that will help you do this other thing, and go find this other website that will tell you what to do with this other thing. It's like, really? I have to, that's the only way I can play this game? I can't just play the game? And it just tells me you don't even know how to do a build? You have to follow a website telling you how to do a build, and you're telling me this is a better game? I'm not saying it's not a better game or a worse game. I'm just saying your credibility, it's on the trash if you need to do that. Because I will believe someone who actually knows how to play the game and how to work the systems telling me, hey, this is a better game than Diablo 4, and these are the reasons. I mean, to be honest, that's just my point of view.
That I saw is how unfair and disingenuous it was for me to compare Diablo 4 to Path of Exile, as Path of Exile has had 10 years of content to improve upon itself and continue to add things over time, where Diablo 4 has only been out for less than a year. And from their perspective, this is true. Path of Exile has had over 30 leagues, each bringing new items, systems, content expansions, bosses, monsters, and various improvements to the game over.
I mean, that's true. Path of Exile has a lot of time. It's been out for a while, for 10 years, he just said. And they've been adding the content to it. However, I get that Diablo 4 doesn't have that as much time. I get it. And that's true. However, Diablo 4 it's a part 4. It's part 4. So there's been Diablo 3, Diablo 2. I mean, Diablo 3 has been live for more than 10 years, and it doesn't have as much content as Path of Exile. So I mean, I think there's a fair point in terms of content. I don't expect Diablo 4 to have as much content. I would rather focus on the quality of the content, if you will. And I think that maybe Path of Exile has better quality of content. Not only not only a lot of more content. If that makes sense.
Over the span of its 10-year reign. Some leagues are more successful than others. Some content is kept for the long haul, and other content is removed because players just didn't enjoy it. 10 years is a long time to improve upon your systems, engage with players, and implement the feedback and data that you've learned into the development of the game.
Yeah.
While Path of Exile isn't a game for everyone, it is the game for the players that enjoy it because of how well Path of Exile has handled its continued development and its monetization. So yeah.
Now, what makes you think that Blizzard doesn't apply whatever they see in their data gamers are doing, players are doing? Like, this is a conversation that I really hate. Like, oh, they listen to the gamers, to the players. Oh, they listen to feedback. Oh, they listen. Do you really think these developers and publishers make decisions without listening to the player base? I mean, you're a fool if you think they just do it because of a gut feeling. They do listen to the player base. They don't listen to the Redditors, and they don't listen to these YouTubers doing stupid videos like me. They listen to the actual data in the game. They go and see the analytics on the game and see and review what players are doing, what it's missing, what they can push, what they cannot push, what they need to change, what they need to add because of the behavior in the game that players are having, and also like some feedback, right? Like textual feedback, but they're not listening to the Redditors. Probably not as much, or the YouTubers like this guy or me. I mean, these games have actual analytics. They know everything that's happening in the games. They have all that data and they evaluate that data and they see what they're missing and what they're excelling on. Is that a word? I don't know. But I think you get me.
Yes, this complaint is actually true. They are right. I am wrong in this from a very narrow perspective. A less than a year-old Diablo 4 versus a 10-year-old Path of Exile is an unfair comparison in a world without context.
In a world without context. Okay.
But we don't live in a world without context. And in this matter, context is king. The Diablo series spawned the loot-driven subgenre within ARPGs, aspiring numerous titles to emulate its formula, including Path of Exile. The game's focus on character progression, loot collection, and real-time combat had become a standard in the genre. Diablo was released almost 3 decades ago in 1996, captivating players with its immersive storytelling, randomized dungeon layouts, and loot-driven gameplay. Diablo 2, released in 2000, expanded upon its predecessor's formula, offering...
So what's the point here? That since they created the action RPG genre, or I don't know, made it mainstream or something, Diablo 4 should be what? I think Diablo 4 is still the most mainstream ARPG out there. Or no? I'm not sure, but
more complex character customization, a larger world, and an enhanced storyline.
Okay.
Diablo 2 is often credited with defining the modern ARPG genre.
Yeah, and I
introducing
agree.
elements like skill trees and a robust multiplayer experience.
Yeah.
Then we have Diablo 3 in 2012 and Diablo 4 in 2023.
Okay.
Almost 3 decades of games, 3 decades of iterations, opportunities for improvement, innovation, and expansion.
So he's saying that there hasn't been any innovation or anything.
On the other hand, we have Path of Exile, which is
Okay.
Grinding Gear Games' first game. The company was founded in 2006. Blizzard Entertainment has been making
First game as a live service. That's a different thing. From the get-go, it was a live service. I know that Diablo 2 had multiplayer. I don't know if Diablo 1, but Diablo 2 had multiplayer. That's fine. And then Diablo 3 was kind of a live service game too. But this, I don't think it's a good comparison, to be honest. I don't think it is. But let's continue.
Making games and expansions since 1994. We could go even further back if you'd like to its days as Silicon and Synapse, and we have an over 30-year-old game studio. Heck, even if we just look at the development cycle for Diablo 4, over 10 years since the release of Diablo 3, Blizzard has had every opportunity to improve upon its initial formula and steal some of the best parts from its competitors' game.
But why? Why? I mean, here's the thing. This guy thinks he's so better than the rest that he actually is convinced and is convincing people that Diablo 4 has to steal things that he considers better for the game. I don't know if I'm explaining myself correctly here, but I mean, this is a very narcissistic kind of point of view. Like, who do you think you are, basically? It's like, okay, you like this systems in Path of Exile better than the systems that are in Diablo 4. Okay, that's fine. Why is it that Diablo 4 has to implement it, or Blizzard has to implement them? Why? I mean, they could. But why do they have to? Those are the things that I don't understand.
So now with context, I propose this question. What do we have for now almost 30 years of Diablo? For a 10-year development cycle for Diablo 4, we got a decent feeling RPG that looked really good. It had awesome looking cutscenes. Story was pretty decent. No loot filters, brain dead boss design, boring loot.
This whole thing with the loot filter, I don't like it either. Like, this is one of the things also that it bothers me about the conversation around these type of games. It's like, a loot filter is not a solution for the loot issue that ARPG have. Like, I know that Path of Exile has this loot filter and that sort of stuff, but to me, that's kind of a band-aid to a bigger issue. And the bigger issue is the actual loot issue. It's like, you play these games and you get so much trash loot that you have to be like, you actually have to get out of on your own and set up a filter. I think it's a bigger issue. I think it's an issue that Path of Exile also has, and they have a band-aid that's a loot filter for you to kind of filter the loot and get better loot for your build or whatever. Yeah, that's fine, but that's not the issue. They still have the issue that if you don't have a loot filter, like, the loot is just crazy, the amount of loot you get and trash loot that you get that you don't want or need. So I wouldn't want Diablo 4 to have a loot filter. I would want them to fix the loot system, the itemization, for it to just drop things that are relevant to you, or at least less loot and less trash loot and more loot that is actually relevant and helpful for your build or your game. And that also will apply to Path of Exile, because the actual inventory in Path of Exile, not in the stash sense, because the stash things in Diablo 4 are trash. I get it, and I agree with that, but still, your inventory in Path of Exile is very limiting.
No end game variety, and a now deserted open world MMO light. Is it wrong of me to expect
And now deserted open, now deserted. What does that mean? People are not playing Diablo 4. People are playing Diablo 4.
more of a $70 billion studio? Is it
Here's the thing, like, oh, it's a big studio, we should get more. What does that even mean? And this is the entitlement part of it. Like, oh, just because you're a big studio, we should get more content. It's like these guys are talking as if they're forced to play the game. As if they don't have the option to just say, Diablo 4 is not a game for me. Or Starfield or whatever game. You know, I mean, if it's not for you, it's not for you. You don't have to create a propaganda campaign to trying to convince people not to play because it's not for you. It's not a game that you like or consider fulfilling. And that's my biggest issue with this kind of content creators. Is like, who's forcing you to buy or play Diablo 4? No one. If you find it boring, why do you have to, why do you have the need to kind of create content just trying to apparently have people not play the game because you don't like it? You said it at the beginning. The guy said it at the beginning. Like, if he convinces people with his own opinions to think like him, he actually thinks we're gonna get better games. I mean, the entitlement and the narcissistic way of thinking it's baffling to me.
wrong of me to expect more, or is it unfair of me to compare when the studio we're talking about is the grandfather of the genre itself?
It doesn't matter.
No, it's not.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. I mean, you could say arguably Ubisoft popularized in a great way. Well, let me think. I don't know, but I'm trying to find a studio. I want to say that Ubisoft, for example, really popularized a type of game, a type of open world games with Far Cry, especially with Far Cry 2 and 3, I would say. Tell me in the comments if I'm wrong. That's fine. I could be wrong. But they kind of popularized a kind of a template for an open world that a lot of people use, including studios like Sucker Punch, for example. Like Ghost of Tsushima, in my opinion, it's very similar. Follows a very similar structure as the Far Cry / open world Assassin's Creed games. You have the side quests. I mean, they execute it in a different way, in a much better way, to be honest. But they have the same things, like like all the little things to do throughout the map. I'm trying to think of whatever people complain a lot about the Far Cry games. It's like the repetitive nature of the activities you can do in the map. I mean, games like Ghost of Tsushima, they do the same thing. But nobody complains about Ghost of Tsushima, for example. And a lot of open world games follow kind of the same structure, like the Horizon games are very similar in terms of game design and how the open world world works. But but Ubisoft, they're bad. But my point is, Ubisoft were the kind of popularized or made this kind of open world design, and you would say, well, they should be making the best open world games. They don't, and it's fine. It's fine. What's the problem? I just don't get it. I just don't. To be honest, I just don't agree with this. With his point, like, oh, it's Blizzard. They have a 30 years history of making Diablo games. They have to be the best. I'm fine with them not being better than Path of Exile, for example. I'm okay with that. That doesn't make Diablo 4 a bad game. That just make it not better than Path of Exile.
It's not unfair to compare Path of Exile to Diablo 4. And that's not me saying
it's not unfair,
Diablo
but
4
stupid.
Needs to be like Path of Exile. It's far from.
That's all you guys do. That's all you guys do. When you say, oh, this in Diablo 4 sucks. Why? Because look how Path of Exile does it. That's all I see all over the place. Like, give me an objective point of view of something bad. And there are probably a bunch of objective bad things in the game. I'm not trying to defend Diablo here. I'm trying to defend the gamers. I'm trying to defend us, the players, who receive all of these trash opinions. And unfortunately, a lot of the gamers just listen to this and don't play the games. Don't give the games a chance. And it's so stupid.
From that, I realize that Diablo 4 is a game that's supposed to appeal to a much wider audience.
Yeah.
A much more casual audience than Path of Exile.
Not casual. It's meant, yes, it's meant to appeal to a much more a casual audience. I agree. That doesn't make Path of Exile. I mean, I think my point is, it's a game. Yeah, it's meant to appeal a lot of casuals, but is Path of Exile not meant to appeal casuals? Because even the hardcore players have a hard time putting together a build in Path of Exile. I mean, there's something there that doesn't make sense to me. And I see what I see. Even if Path of Exile was like a hardcore game, yeah, that's fine. It's a game for the hardcore ARPG players. It doesn't take away the problem that I think it has, that there's so much complexity in the game that don't necessarily make it better. I mean, complexity doesn't make the game better. Complexity just make it complicated. So much so that people have to follow guides to actually play the game. They can't just play the game. If you're gonna tell me that I'm gonna be a casual or a dad, which I'm not, because I prefer being able to play a simpler game which I can actually follow without having to watch a 2-hour video guides and have a website on the side opened for every little thing that I'm gonna do, because otherwise I'm not gonna do progress in the game or I'm not gonna be good in the game. I mean, to me that's not substance.
But without that complexity and depth, that doesn't mean that Diablo 4 needed to be a game that lacked any innovation, imagination, or improvement.
What's the imagination that is lacking? What is the innovation that is lacking? I would like to hear someone tell me what are the innovations that they want to see in the game. And what is considered an innovation? Is it something that other games have, or is something that it's completely new that no other game has? Because one thing is, it has to be a Diablo game at the same time, right? Or no? Like, if they change the game so much, are gamers like this guy going to be like, oh no, it's not a Diablo game anymore, like everyone did with Assassin's Creed when they changed to the open world format? Oh no, it's not a Assassin's Creed game anymore, this sucks. Is it gonna be like that? Or do they want Diablo to still be Diablo with innovation? What kind of what's the innovation part of it? What? I don't get it.
But that's exactly what we got. That's the reason why I'm upset, and many other players are upset too, is because it should still be more than what it is.
I think they innovated the Diablo game. That's my opinion. Maybe not first. They didn't do what Path of Exile does. They didn't do what other ARPG do, Lost Ark, whatever. I don't know. But they innovated the Diablo game. There's a leap between Diablo 4 and Diablo 3, I think. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still think like Nightmare Dungeons are like an iteration of the Rifts. But that's what innovation is, right? They took whatever they had before and made it, in my opinion, something better that works with this open world game design. That's innovation to me. They did it open world versus what they had in Diablo 3. I think that's innovation.
That's not to say that the game won't get better over time.
It
But that
will.
still doesn't justify us spending more money until they get that game to what it should be.
They so this guy is implying that we should get the expansion for free? Is that what he's saying?
And it still lacks that something that wants to make you keep coming back to it.
Oh no. For you, that's fine. And I can accept that it's lacking that thing that it's making you not go back to the game. But what makes you think you speak for everyone else? And this is what bothers me so much, because what makes you think you represent me as a Diablo player?
Another common complaint that I saw is that I said nothing about Diablo 4 and how it's improved since Season 2. Now, in the video, I did mention that some improvements have been made to the game, especially in the Season of Blood. However, the uptick in player engagement was relatively negligible. So let's go ahead and look at those improvements. New players can now skip the campaign and jump right into Season 2. Previously, players had to complete the campaign at least once.
Oh, okay. So I was gonna say like, oh, you could always skip the campaign, but he's talking about now. Apparently, you don't have to do the campaign to actually jump into Season 2. That's fine. That's one thing that I hate about Path of Exile, is that I always have to play the campaign. I always have to do the campaign. I see no one bringing that up about something that sucks in Path of Exile. It really sucks, in my opinion. Now, I'm not gonna be here creating content trying to make people quit Path of Exile because I don't like that fact. I don't like having to play the campaign in every league. but they apparently that's exactly what these content creators think they have to do. It's like, oh, I don't like um this little thing in the game, so I'm gonna create 10 videos for the next 4 months trying to make people understand that this game sucks because it has this little thing that I don't like.
Even join into a seasonal realm. All renown now carries over to new characters and seasons. Previously, we still had to go out and do renown activities to build that stuff back up and get some of those character buffs and extra skill points.
Okay.
Gems no longer take up inventory space, and low-tier loot is automatically salvaged,
Yeah.
freeing up inventory space and easing some of the pains of lack of storage.
That's
New
fine.
bosses have been added to the game throughout the seasons. Target farming uniques has been added to the game, giving players the opportunity to potentially find some build-defining items that were previously randomly found and couldn't be found just about anywhere. And they also improved XP gains by up to 40%. Now,
Okay.
while I think these are great improvements, I want to communicate my frustration that many of this stuff wasn't in Diablo 4 when it first released. And on top of that, many of the innovations that we've seen across the genre over the course of Diablo 3's release up until Diablo 4, we still don't see any of that. Crafting, trading, interesting itemization, cross-class builds, and subclasses. At launch, Diablo 4 didn't even have boss-specific, non-cosmetic chase items. All loot, any loot, could be obtained anywhere. There was no reason to even fight bosses
Yeah, that's something that I do agree.
in the first.
Like we could have specific loot for a specific. Well, you have the dungeons that you get specific aspects from. So you do have that, but it's only with aspects for for specific classes. So if you want to get this aspect, you have to find like a specific aspect that is found in a nightmare. Not in a dungeon. You have to find that dungeon, go ahead and fight it, finish it, and then you get that aspect. But for a specific, like for specific loot, you don't. You no. Like all loot are. But do you have that in other games? I'm not sure. I don't know.
First place, other than to just progress the story or go for achievement. A company with as many resources and experience as Blizzard couldn't effectively make interesting boss designs, blending colors with attacks to make the environment where you couldn't even know what you were being hit by. You ended up just getting filled.
Yeah, I agree with that too. But that doesn't. You see, I can understand the defects. I just hate the conversation. Like, what does that have to do with, oh, a $70 billion company cannot make a better boss? I mean, this is where I really hate the conversation. Like, it's the argument that really sucks. It really, really fucking sucks. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It's a $70 billion company. Why does that matter? What's the point? It's like these people are just these,
filtered by their art.
they don't find a meaningful justification. They just go back to that. Oh, it's a $70 billion company. They should have done better. Like, what? What makes you think that? I'm gonna say, if I paid more than, I mean, if it's, oh, I paid $200 for this game, it should be better. That's a different story, I think. But I don't understand the argument of, oh, it's a big company, it should be a better boss. I just don't understand that argument. It doesn't take away from bosses not being the best boss. Like, it doesn't take from a boss being a bad boss, or a fight being a bad fight, or a mechanic not being a great mechanic. It doesn't take away, but it's just the argument, like, of oh, this is Blizzard, $70 billion company, the mechanics should be better. I just don't understand that argument. It's stupid. It's a very stupid and superficial argument.
So yes, Diablo 4 has definitely improved over time, massively so. And I realize that there's people that want me to recognize that because they enjoy Diablo 4 as it is right now, and they're looking forward to the future of the game. They don't want me to just gloss over the fact that they have updated and fixed things over the course of the game's launch.
Okay.
However, the thing is that many of those improvements are common improvements that have existed in the industry since the development of Diablo 4. So none of that justifies me or many other people spending $50 to $100 on an expansion for the game.
That's true. However, why do you feel you need to communicate this? That's one thing that I just don't understand. Like, let me see. What are games that I don't like? I don't like Red Dead Redemption 2. So, does that justify me having to create content trying to make people understand that Red Dead Redemption 2 is a bad game because I don't like it? And try to convince people to actually not get Red Dead Redemption 2 because the result of that, of even convincing a couple people to not do it, will result in us getting better games? Really? Really?
It doesn't even justify me spending money on any expansion regardless of.
That's fine. Don't do it. That is fine. Don't do it. Do you go to a Nike store thinking that you have to buy all of the shoes? No. You're just gonna get the one that you like. Probably you get a few if you're like one of the sneaker collectors or whatever. But just, it doesn't have to justify you getting the expansion. Just don't get the fucking expansion. But why do you want to stop Blizzard from making the expansion or charging whatever they think they need to charge? Even I, as a Diablo 4 player, if the expansion comes out and it's $40, $50, and I don't feel like I'm gonna buy it, or I don't feel there's a justification for me to get it, I just won't get it. I don't see the fucking issue. I don't see the problem. I just don't. Just don't get it.
Whatever the price is. And I think this is a common issue that we see in gaming a lot. Gamers, every time that the studios start doing something that we want them to, start listening to us, even just for a minute, we start opening our wallets back up. And then the minute we do, the problems start all over again. Our reward.
What is this guy talking about? I don't think, maybe it's not something that I do. Okay, let's just continue. I just not sure about that.
To them for doing the right things is by us playing their game. Because if we're playing their game, it's popular. If it's popular, there's more people that are buying it. There's more people that are probably interacting with their microtransaction systems and all of that other stuff. We don't need to spend money for them to improve games. And that's something that we've been doing for far too long, and it needs to stop.
What do you mean by that? So if I'm a developer and I develop a live service game, do you really think I don't have to make money in order to continue making the game or having the game live? I mean, of course, this is not Blizzard's situation. I mean, Blizzard's a huge company. It's a $70 billion company. But I don't know. I question that. Like, do we have to spend money to get games? Better games? It's not about us having to spend money to get better games. If we want to continue having Diablo 4 live as a game, unfortunately, somehow Blizzard has to make money to keep it up live. That's just how it is. It's like, do you need to spend money to get a better cell phone service? Well, I don't know if you have to spend money to get better phone service. I do know that the company has to make money in order to be able to provide you a better service, because if they don't, they just can't. And that's just how it is, I think. I could be wrong. Let me know in the comments, but to me, that's how the math works.
Now, the last thing that I want to tackle are sentiments that were shared by both Riker and Asmongold, and this has to do with the complexity and depth of Diablo 4 and how it doesn't really need to position itself as a competitor because it doesn't have the same target audience.
It's a Diablo game. It's a Diablo game. What they need to do is improve upon the previous Diablo game. If they don't do that, then there's a problem, yeah. But it's not about improving upon another game. Look, if you are in marketing, you'll understand something. Like, I remember this case in my native country. There's this huge beer. It's the biggest brand of beer in the Caribbean, probably. In the Caribbean, I don't know. And of course, it's the biggest beer brand in the country. And then this smaller brand came out trying to compete with that beer brand. Let's say beer brand is Rocket. I'm just looking at my speaker here. Rocket. Let's say Rocket Beer. It's the biggest brand in the country. And then this other brand called Peppermint came out trying to compete with Rocket. What did Rocket do? Rocket didn't compete against Peppermint. Why? Because they're already established brand. They're already the biggest brand in the country. So if they just throw out a campaign trying to compete against Peppermint, this new small crappy beer, they're just going to hurt their brand. So what did they do? They came up with another smaller stupid beer, crappy beer, to compete against Peppermint. They didn't put their brand, their premium brand to compete against a crappy brand. They just created a crappy beer to compete against that Peppermint crappy beer. And they destroyed it. And that second beer that they created to compete against Peppermint is still there. It's still popular. So it was a win-win. Same thing with Diablo. I mean, Diablo is an established brand. It's the biggest brand in the ARPG genre. It's the biggest one. If I were the marketing, the CMO of Blizzard, I would never let Diablo try to compete against Path of Exile or Last Epoch or Lost Ark. I will never do that. I would never do that. Because we are Diablo. We are the biggest. Those other games have to try to compete against us. They can do all that all they want. We're not gonna do it. And that's just how it is. So it's a completely different thing. Diablo is Diablo. Diablo needs to improve upon its own previous game. Like Season 2 improved upon Season 1. And that has to continue. They don't have to be better than Lost Ark. They don't have to be better than Path of Exile. They have to be better than themselves. If that makes sense.
4 is meant to be a more casual game than PoE. And the way that I worded my arguments about that, well, kind of left me open to this, so I want to clarify. Path of Exile is far too complex and complicated for the layman and honestly even veterans of the genre. I just recently started playing the game.
Yep. And that's one thing that I hate as an argument, because these people, oh, it's deeper and all. A lot of them don't even know how to play these systems. They have to follow a guide. So what's the credibility here of this person telling me how much better than Diablo, Path of Exile is, when they don't even know how to play the game? They have to follow a guide. They have to follow tutorials to actually know how to work one of the many systems that Path of Exile has. I'm not trying to trash Path of Exile. I think it's a great game. I actually, in my content, I've recommended Path of Exiles a lot. But it's just the reality of it. It's okay.
In earnest with its last season, and while I've enjoyed myself, I cannot play the game without having done significant research and having max roll opened up on my other monitor.
It's ridiculous.
So many separate end game systems that you genuinely cannot tell at first glance which is going to be the most rewarding or even enjoyable to.
Hopefully, Path of Exile 2 improves upon that. And that's what I want to see. I don't want to see Path of Exile trying to beat Diablo 4. I don't want to see Path of Exile trying to be better in Diablo 4 or take a system from Diablo 4 and improve upon it. No, I want to see Path of Exile take all of their system, that complexity, and improve upon them, and make it so you could actually play the game without having to do like as if it's a tutorial, right? Because I mean, I don't know, maybe that's personal, but I just feel that's it's cheap. It's cheap and cheating. Like, oh, I have a greatest build in Path of Exile. Oh my god, how do you do it? Oh, here's a max roll page. I followed this build. At least I can say in Diablo 4 that my build is my build. It's how I did it and how I experimented with. And it's not as deep. The system and the skills, the skill tree and all that, it's not as deep, but at least it's mine. It's something that I did, and I kind of feel it's cool.
Engage with. The game feels like it has countless ways to level, gear, and progress through the game. And some of the most complex skill and talent systems that I don't think I've seen anywhere else. Path of Exile isn't just a learning curve. It's a learning mountain that once you get to the top, somebody just pushes you off.
Yeah.
When I brought up the value proposition between Diablo 4 and Path of Exile, what I was trying to really show off was the comparing and contrasting of meaningful progression. Diablo 4 lacks it completely. Personally, this is my opinion, but when I look at Diablo 4, I see Nightmare Dungeons basically being the exact same thing as Greater Rifts.
Of course! What? Okay. I think I'm gonna cry. Why is that a problem? Again, okay, if you didn't like let's say this. If you didn't like Diablo 3, then it's fine. I agree. Okay, perfect. You're not gonna like Diablo 4 because Nightmare Dungeons are basically an evolution of Greater Rifts. And that's what it should be. Why? Because it's Diablo 4. It's the next Diablo game. Right? So, if Diablo 4 wasn't... I mean, if they just went ahead and did Diablo 4 as not the sequel to Diablo 3, then it wouldn't be a Diablo game. Just like Path of Exile 2 is probably going to be the evolution of Path of Exile. I don't see the problem. I think when you're talking about the innovation, it's not on the genre, it's on the game itself. Like Nightmare Dungeons are the natural evolution from Diablo 3 to Diablo 4 of the Greater Rifts. I don't see the problem. Now, you don't have to like it. I agree. But the fact that you don't like it, again, it's the entitlement. It's like, oh, I don't like this. This is the same thing as the Greater Rifts. So this is crap. This is stupid. We should get better things from a $70 billion company. Why? Oh, because I don't like it. And I feel better in Path of Exile. I think Path of Exile is better. Okay. Play Path of Exile.
I look at the Tree of Whispers is basically just a reimagined version of the adventure mode. And the open world lacks really any.
That's what it should be. Why it should be something different? And it's not a reimagined version of the adventure mode, to be honest. I don't agree with that at all. At all.
Thoughtful design.
Isn't Elden Ring a reimagined Dark Souls? For example? Isn't Elden Ring a reimagining of Dark Souls?
Whatsoever. At least in Path of Exile.
There you go. There you go. There you go. The comparison. At least in Path of Exile, I get this and this and that. Okay, go play Path of Exile. Why do you feel the need to create content to convince people that Diablo 4 sucks and Path of Exile is better? I really hate this shit.
That it has, there's meaningful ways to progress your character, whether that's through the labyrinth, being able to access.
And to be honest, that's completely subjective. That is completely subjective. That's not objective. Like, oh, there are meaningful ways to progress your character. Okay. That's completely subjective to the player. Because there are players who may find meaningful the progression in Diablo 4, and that's fine. And that's, again, I'm going back to objectivity and subjectivity. It's like, what makes you feel that because it's not meaningful to you, what makes you feel that you represent the opinion of everyone? I mean, basically, because you don't like something, what makes you feel that entitled to actually say that that thing is bad? It's like, if you don't like cauliflower, oh, so the rest of the world needs to understand that cauliflower is bad because you don't like it?
As a more specialized tree of skills and abilities and things that you can use later. Or maybe it's some of the other end game systems that have specific items that you can only get from doing those activities.
No, that's cool. That I agree. And they could implement that. They don't have to. But that would be cool.
There's something to that makes you want to keep coming back to it. That makes you want to learn more about
Again, that's completely subjective. Like, I don't feel the need to go back to Path of Exile, to be honest.
But there's nothing to learn in Diablo. It's just go kill stuff. Hopefully you get a higher number. Okay, you got higher number. Good job. Maybe you can beat Lilith now. There's just nothing to it. And while I realize that this game is supposed to be for a much more simpler audience, for people
simpler audience
that aren't looking for something ultra complex, that doesn't mean it shouldn't have meaning. And for me, Diablo 4 doesn't have meaning.
Yeah, thank you for saying for me, because that's completely subjective and that's an opinion, and that's fine. If you need, I don't understand your urge to kind of let the world know of your opinion. I don't know why you feel so important. But hey, that's your opinion, and that's fine.
All in all, I expect more from the company that created the genre.
That's stupid. Having expectation, it's a big mistake from you and from everyone who has expectations. You shouldn't have expectations. Like, yeah.
From the company that made the game that inspired all of its competition, with some odd over 9,000 people that worked on the game over its creation, as well as all the money that they invested. I would expect an improvement over previous iterations and innovations within the genre. So when that same company is coming at me asking for $50 to $100 for an expansion of a game that didn't meet mine or many other players' expectations, that still has a long ways to go to improve, I mean, we still don't even have stash tabs, loot filters.
Again, these are two completely different thoughts. I mean, let me go back.
So when that same company is coming at me asking for $50 to $100 for an expansion of a game that didn't meet mine or many other players' expectations.
Okay, that. The fact that didn't meet your expectations does not mean that it didn't meet anyone's expectations. Like, if you don't like Destiny and they come out with an expansion, what are we even talking about here? I'm trying to this is absurd. Like, okay, Diablo 4 didn't meet your expectations. Okay. Then this expansion is not for you, my friend. It's for those who liked Diablo 4. Again, it's like you're not forced to buy the expansion. Nobody's forcing you to buy the expansion. It's just an additional expansion for the game. If you like Diablo 4, you're probably going to get it. If you didn't, you probably aren't going to get it. Like, it's I don't like playing a World of Warcraft. I don't play World of Warcraft. I don't play WoW. So they come out with the dragon thing expansion. So that means, oh, let me go and do a video explaining how stupid it is from Blizzard to come out with an expansion, Dragonflight, whatever. Because WoW, when I played it, disappointed me. I didn't like it. So what makes them think they can come and sell me a $40 expansion? It doesn't make any sense what this guy is saying. That's what I'm trying to say. It's like, if you didn't like Diablo 4, that's fine, move on. But really, you're gonna complain because they're releasing an expansion for their player base? What makes you think? What makes you think? Who the fuck do you think you are? Oh, I didn't like Diablo 4, so they can't come out with an expansion because I didn't like Diablo 4. It's like, what? It's stupid. It's ridiculous.
That still has
Who the fuck? The entitlement. Oh my god.
long ways to go to improve. I mean, we still don't even have stash tabs, loot filters.
We need stash tabs. Yeah, definitely. And this whole thing with the stash in Diablo 4 is ridiculous. Yeah, I agree. It's ridiculous. It's stupid.
Don't exist. The overworld endgame still lacks really any meaningful purpose.
That's completely subjective. That is completely subjective. And that is not an objective thought.
Personally,
objective is that the game of Subjective is, oh, I don't like this, or I don't find any meaning in this game. Okay, that's subjective. You're entitled to your opinion. That's fine. But that's a subjective point of view. An objective point of view is, an objective thing was Fallout 76, right? Because it wasn't an opinion that people were falling through the geometry. That's not an opinion. That's not a subjective opinion. That's just objective. The game is broken because people are falling through the geometry. That's not subjective. That's not an opinion. That's objective. Now, when you're saying, oh, this game doesn't have any meaning to you, and I thank you for saying to you before, but if it doesn't work for you, just don't consume it. Just don't play it. It's like, it's not like you're being forced to play this game. Like, oh, fuck, I have to pay $50 now for this game that I don't like. What?
I feel that loot and builds need to be a little bit more interesting, and the game still lacks that something intangible that really wants to drive you to play it. Now, again, they definitely have improved the game since Season 2, and
All
Season 3
opinions.
can take it even
Okay.
further. But regardless of the improvements that they make in a year, for me personally, and I would hope for many others, that's not enough for me to justify buying the game all over again.
That's fine. Don't do it.
Am I to believe that in tandem, when developing Diablo 4, they have developed a second Diablo 4 to layer over on top of it? Or they developed a second Diablo 4 in less time than it took them to make the base game? These are MMO expansion prices or higher. And for me, that's way too much, too early, for too little work.
Let's see how it goes. Let's see how it goes. I'm going to be honest. I'm not going to pretend like I'm smarter than all the analysts at Blizzard. I'm not going to pretend I'm smarter than all the marketing, the entire marketing department at Blizzard. I'm not going to pretend I'm better, I'm smarter than all those people. I'm not going to pretend. I'm pretty sure they have a huge, coming from corporate America, like working in corporate America, working in marketing, and knowing how every single little decision on the marketing side, it's made out of data. And this is personal experience. It's made out of data. Every single communication, pricing, and every single little thing that goes out there on the brands that I work on are based on data. And I'm pretty sure that Blizzard has a very big department just reading, interpreting, and taking in all that data. And all of those decisions inside the company and the pricing and all of it, it's made listening to that data. Not the Redditors and not you, guy, whoever, legendary, whatever. No. So, do I want to pay $50 for an expansion? No, I don't want to pay $50 for an expansion. Will I? I don't know. Let's see. Now, there's a reason why they're releasing that for $50, and it's not just because they want to release it for $50, and it's not just because they think it's not just because they think that they have a good game in hand and they're gonna release it for $50. All of that, it's based on data. They have a lot of information, a lot of data. They interpreting that data, they're doing projections, and that number is the one that fits their business model. And the player base, based on the player base. So do I want to pay $50 for it? No, I don't want to pay. If you ask me, what I would prefer is to have it for free. Now, my complaint with this argument is that these content creators, they think they're so much better than everyone else, and they're smarter than sorry. And they think they're smarter than the analysts, and they think they're smarter than these marketers, and they think they're smarter than these companies, right? Because they sit down with a microphone talking shit to a YouTube audience. And I mean, all I hear it's ignorance here. I'm sorry. I'm not trying to insult this guy, but it's ignorant. It's really ignorant.
But that's just for me, and it could be different for you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for letting me think by myself.
And what I say in these videos are just my view of what I think about the game and what I think about the industry. That doesn't necessarily mean that that is your opinion or it needs to be everybody else's. But I do hope that having discussions like these do help people try to make smarter purchasing decisions in the future.
You see, I mean, he really thinks that his opinion it's better than everyone else's. So if I listen to him, I'll be making smarter decisions. That's what he's saying there. And I really don't like that. I really don't like it.
Be a little bit more patient. Hold out a little bit longer because we're going to get better games as a result. Opening our wallets to that much money so quickly doesn't make a lot of sense to me. That's the whole reason I made the video in the first place. Not saying that the game is doomed. Not saying that the game has no chance at all for survival. Though it does look relatively bleak.
Of course he had to say that. Of course he had to say, because you know better than everyone else. And you know better than... But I do agree with one thing, is that I never support... I think us players and gamers have the power. We have the power. We have the purchasing power. So I do agree with him. Is again, I don't agree, and I don't like how he structure his thoughts and his opinions, because it's all over the place, and he's all over the place. He's just it feels like someone emotional, just talking emotionally and not rationally. That's my opinion. However, I do agree with what he says is his intention. I don't believe that's his intention, or I don't believe he's expressed he exposed his intention in a very good way. Like everything before that, everything he said before stating what his intention is doesn't really align with his intention, but that's fine. But I do agree with the intention of what he says about asking people to hold off. And I do agree. I don't support pre-purchase. I don't support this whole thing of early access. And this whole thing of making me spend money for an unfinished product. I don't like it. And I don't like this pre-purchase culture and such. I never supported pre-purchase, and I do want, and I would like to encourage people to hold off, like he's saying, because what the result of that is a behavior in which the developers feel like they can release a game that is incomplete and broken and such, and then fix it as they go, and I would like to hate to think and to be right on that, on the fact that they actually get funding through pre-purchase to actually finish a game that's already released or something like that. So I do want to encourage people to not participate in those behaviors of, you know, pre-purchasing games or giving money for incomplete games. No, just hold off, wait until the game is released. Maybe the streamers, it's okay for streamers to and content creators to pre-purchase the game so they can, even though they receive the games for free from developers, I mean a lot of them. Again, what I'm trying to say is just wait until the game is released, look at the reviews, look at what people are saying, look at streamers, and create your opinion on which, you know, if you're gonna buy it or not. But don't pre-purchase, because I do think or don't yeah, pre-purchase, basically. Just hold on your money, and hold your money, wait until it's released, if it's good, if it's bad, then form your opinion and then go ahead and purchase it. Right? It's like, for example, I hated this cyberpunk situation, right? When there was so many, I mean, before the game released, there were so many people who pre-purchased that game, and we all know how that went. So what happens with that is that the companies still make their money with a release a broken game because of all these pre-purchase things. They still make their money. They release it, and then they start acting in the same way. Like, oh, it's fine if we release a game that's broken and incomplete. That's fine because we can make it up later. And I don't like it. If we didn't pre-purchase and if we just hold off our money, a situation like Cyberpunk would have been disastrous for them, because then they would have lost money. They would have, and then other companies and other developers and other publishers don't rely on those things and try to avoid those things before. But now what we do by pre-purchasing and accepting these is just we encourage developers and publishers to don't care and just release the games as they are, and oh, it's gonna be fine, we're gonna fix it later on. And I really hate that.
If you watch any of the trailers for Path of Exile 2, you cannot tell me that that game doesn't look like a massive innovation over the genre.
Over Path of Exile, but how is it a major innovation over the genre? It's just a different approach to the genre, I think. And it's great. It looks awesome. It looks amazing. I'm going to play it. I don't play Path of Exile, and I'm eager to try Path of Exile too. Definitely.
It looks incredible.
Yeah.
Look, I started this channel mostly about Diablo 4, and I pivoted away from that mostly because I didn't like the game. And I just
Great. That's fine. You're entitled to that.
don't like making a ton of content about games that I'm not enjoying. And I'm not going to continue to pretend like I do or whatever else just to get views or something like that. No. The idea is for me to be as genuine as I possibly can with these discussions, with these videos that I make, and that's what I'm doing right now. So I realize that there's people that are out there that want me to look at the game in a different light. And I realize that there's fanboys that are going to be fervent and zealous in every take that they can have, but this is...
I hate fanboys too. Like, I don't want to come across as a fanboy. I'm not defending Diablo 4. I'm actually defending players. If I had a purpose on reacting this and having these opinions over these things, is that what I would encourage is for people to create their own opinions. Stop listening to these content creators, which they had their opinion, and they're entitled for their opinion, but they don't have the greatest arguments. They don't have the greatest arguments. They repeat whatever it's being talked around. Like, most content creators are going to be saying the exact same thing. Like, they just regurgitate the same thing over and over and over and over and over again. But yeah, I mean, I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry.
is mine. So I respect yours, you respect mine.
Yeah, I do respect your opinion. I just don't like how you express your opinion, because you're entitled to your opinion, and that's great, but the way you present your opinion is as an objective truth, and it's not. It's just your opinion and your feelings, and that's fine, and you're entitled. And if you feel the urge to tell it to people, I mean, you do you. It's your platform. But don't present it as an objective opinion. And I know you're saying here right now that it's just your opinion, and you respect other people's opinion or whatever. But before, you didn't present it that way. you present your opinions as objective truths, and that's where and the arguments are not very solid in my opinion. But yeah.
Neither of us respect one another because it's the internet, so whatever.
Yeah, be cynical.
But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Big shout out and thanks to Asmongold, Riker, and also Darth Microtransactions for
yeah,
checking out the video and watching it on their streams. Really cool.
Legendary
really appreciate
drops.
it. I got a bunch of comments and sentiments about people that were like super against folks reacting to people's content. I'm just gonna say
legendary drops. Let's do a subscribe and let's do a like.
It's great for a smaller channel.
I mean,
awesome exposure.
I really don't like this type of.
Watched for years now.
As you can notice, I really don't like this type of opinions, but it's fine. It's good. Let's give him a subscribe and a like and move on, I guess.